Hi, Facebook. I am at a super cool event in Pittsburgh that's really going to decide the future of what we're going to do with Pittsburgh. And the Heinz Endowment is a major player. You guys are sponsoring this. And so joining me is Grant Oliphant, the president of the Heinz Endowment.
Hi, Pittsburgh.
All right, talk a little bit about what you have going on. This is a 2-day event, and you really do want to kind of map out the future.
Well, Pittsburgh's going through this amazing burst of renewal, and we all feel it after a generation of fighting against the collapse of the steel industry and then trying to dig out from under over the course of the past 30, 40 years. What we're suddenly seeing is Pittsburgh in motion. The question is, who's going to benefit from that? And what sort of standards are we going to hold in place to make it be great?
And there's a lot to cover here, and you're calling this the P4 conference. There are 4 Ps. Go over those for us.
So P4 stands for people, planet, place, and performance. And they're all pretty self-explanatory. People just means we want to create an inclusive community this time around where everyone benefits. The planet piece means that we should shoot for the best standard of sustainability in the world. Why not? Why not? Pittsburgh already has an amazing reputation as a green leader. We should build on that.
And talk about that a little more, because a lot of people who probably don't live in Pittsburgh might not realize the environmental impact and the changes that we've seen in Pittsburgh. A lot of people still have the steel industry in their minds.
Oh, sure. So the reputation of Pittsburgh still nationally is a little bit of the smoky city, but we're way beyond that. And actually now what we're known for is being one of the best green cities in the country. We've got some of the best waterfront happening anywhere in the country. So we've reinvented ourselves, but we need to build on that because there's nothing about it that we can just take for granted.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's the second P. Talk about the other 2.
So we did people and we did planet, and place is a third. Every community wants to preserve the things that are really unique about it. We're a city of 90 neighborhoods. We're an amazing region that has lots of distinctive areas. I saw for the first time a couple of weeks ago a bumper sticker that said, "Keep Pittsburgh weird." So that's
Keep Pittsburgh weird. All right.
So that's a bit of a ripoff from Austin, but I love it because we've got a lot of quirky stuff about Pittsburgh that we all love, and the notion is we should preserve those assets of place, make the places that make Pittsburgh distinctive a part of who we are, even as we see renewal and redevelopment. And then the last one is performance. This is the hardest one to explain. I was hoping you'd not challenge me to explain it, but I'll give it a go. So performance is really about the excellence of the systems that you put in place as a city. So how well does government work?
And how are we doing?
We're actually, well, part of what's changing Pittsburgh right now is political leadership. You know, we have a mayor who's progressive. We have a county executive who wants to see great things happen. They're politically aligned. They're working with councils in both cases that are generally supportive of what they're doing, and they're making changes in government. So we want to see Pittsburgh be a 21st century city. We want it to have the best technology. We want it to be an easy place to live and to navigate.
And we do get a lot of recognition now, but we do have a long way to go. I was watching some of the videos that you guys presented at the beginning of the conference, and we do have some challenges.
You know, every city in America has them, but in Pittsburgh we really have them. We're mostly a black-white city. We're beginning to see immigration come in from other groups, but this is a city that faces a long history of inequity on a host of fronts. Race is certainly one of them, but there are inequities around gender. There are inequities around haves versus have-nots that are deep and embedded in this place. And I think if Pittsburgh really wants to stand out as a city of the 21st century, and if we want what's happening now to be sustainable, we have to address those inequities.
And there's a lot of interest. There are more than 600 people in there listening to what's going on at this 2-day conference, willing to make a difference.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing about Pittsburgh right now. I don't think that there is anybody who I've met who wants to take all of the best of lists that we're appearing on for granted. You know, the city wants to make sure that it's great, and the folks in that room are all determined to be part of the solution. So it's really exciting to see. That's kind of the history of Pittsburgh, though. You know, Pittsburghers step up, and when it has come to changing Pittsburgh over the course of the past now 60 years, we've done it 3 or 4 times. It's always because people here are willing to step up.
And you gave a great challenge at the beginning of the conference this morning, making everybody stand up, saying, would you be willing to stand in someone else's shoes? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I actually stole this from or at least the core idea from an anti-racism advocate named Jane Elliott, who I saw do that. But basically, what I asked was, if you really wanted to, if you would be willing to take the place of somebody in this community who's African American, or if you're a man, take the place of a woman in this community, or if you're not disabled, to take the place of somebody who is disabled, or if you're not a member of the LGBT community, to take the place of somebody who is. If you would be content with the treatment that folks in those groups receive in our community, stand up. And the magic of that exercise is nobody does. If they're really thinking about what's going on in our culture and in our society, they wouldn't stand up. But of course, what we want to create is a society where we would all feel comfortable standing up because we're willing to stand in each other's shoes. That's what we want to create, a community where I could just as easily be you or someone else, and at least have a sense that I'd enjoy the same opportunities and the same possibility of success.
So this 2-day conference, do you think it's going to make a difference and change something? This is the second year that you've done it. This year's much bigger than last year.
It's doubled in size since last year. Last year, though, we set off to do this as an intervention and a point of time. We think Pittsburgh's going through a change, and that's only going to last 5 years, 10 years. So
now's the time.
So now's the time to do it. The first conference resulted in the city actually adopting a set of metrics that it's going to use in applying public funds for development. So that P4 metrics is a very specific action that's come from the first conference. The point with the second conference is we want the same thing around equity and justice. We want to make sure that what emerges from this is not a 2-day conference with some hopefully good video, but actually a change agenda. And that's the challenge for the group is going to be come up with the change agenda.
And talk about the Heinz Endowment a little bit, because you guys are going through a little bit of a change with Teresa Heinz Carey stepping down as chairman and her son taking over. Andre, talk about that.
The Heinz Endowments are a 60-some-year-old institution set up with money from the Heinz family's fortune. And it's focused on Pittsburgh. What we do is look at issues of importance in this community, and we're focused on 3 right now: sustainability, learning, and learning and creativity. I can't believe I'm struggling on my three core ideas. But the idea is that we want to focus on Pittsburgh from a change perspective on the things that are really going to make the greatest difference to Pittsburgh right now. So that is creativity, sustainability, and learning, and the change that we're also facing is a generational one. So Teresa Heinz, who has been my boss and mentor for a long time, has decided it's time to hand the reins of the foundation over to her 3 sons.
Will we see any kind of different focus now?
Well, no, actually, because they've been part of developing this new focus on those 3 areas. And core to all 3, by the way, which is why I sometimes get a little twisted on this, is there is a unifying concept for all 3, which is the idea of creating a just community. So in all 3 of those areas, whether we're talking about sustainability and creating an amazing green city that's socially and economically inclusive, or if we're talking about creating a creative city, or if we're talking about a city that values lifelong learning, then at the core of all 3 has to be this notion of actually also creating a just community and making it a city for all. The sons all believe in that. They've been part of designing that framework. So I expect they'll all bring their own unique interests to the table, and their own styles of leadership. But the great news is that there's tremendous continuity of values for Pittsburgh and a love of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. And so many people are commenting. You can see so many people do love Pittsburgh on the side. They're commenting live there, so it's nice to see all of your comments. For somebody watching, though, that might not be so interested in creativity or environmental issues or even fairness, why should they care about the future of Pittsburgh? Because it really does impact all of us one way or another.
all of these issues are interconnected, and there is actually absolutely no way we can have a successful Pittsburgh in the long term if we don't have those three core values around sustainability, creativity, and learning, but especially if we don't have the central idea of creating a just community. And that's what, we're seeing this all around the globe, actually. The fault line of modern times is the disparities that we face, disparities between have and have-nots, disparities around race, disparities around gender. And we're seeing how ugly that can get just in the national dialogue that we're witnessing right now. We have got to address this. If we don't, it will tear us apart. It will destroy what we represent as a community and what we represent as a society. So, even if you don't share the values, you've got to decide to commit yourself to this combination, because that's what's going to spell success for a community in the 21st century.
So many people watching this might not be from Pittsburgh, and they might only know us from our sports teams, which we are so proud of, right? We talk about them all the time. We're so proud, but we're so much more than that. And we're sitting here in the David L. Lawrence Convention Center. I remember covering this for the G20 Summit when it happened years ago, and the awe that so many of the international reporters had at what we had to offer here.
Yeah. Pittsburgh has... Well, it's always been an amazing city. It's the city that in so many ways built America. But what we have done over the course of the past 20 years is reinvent the idea of our relationship with the city. So we value our riverfronts. We're creating some of the best riverfronts in the world. We value beauty. We value walkability. And that's the community that we're seeing created. Downtown, when I moved here 25 years ago, downtown was essentially a 9-to-5 proposition at best. Now it's alive 24/7, and people are anxious to move down here and spend time here. And when you bring visitors down, they marvel at the place. So it's really extraordinary what we've accomplished. But we can't just stop there. We have
Talk about a little bit. You say the next 5 years is going to be a big determining factor. Why is this moment so important?
By the way, I have to thank you for pointing out the fact that people are commenting, because now I'm utterly terrified. It's just a reminder that this is live, and all
this is Grant's first time doing a live feed, and so he's doing great, isn't he?
Doing a live Facebook feed. That's okay. This is new. So be kind.
See, Marcy's saying, "Judge no one. Perfect community." Proud of our great city, says Marcy. That's great.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. And thank you to the folks who care enough about this issue to be commenting and who share the vision.
Here you go, Brad. Brad says the Heinz Endowment is a great leader in our community.
Great. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
So talk about the moment. This is a pivotal moment.
Yeah. It's an incredible moment. If you look almost anywhere in the city, we're seeing change happen. And it's all exciting, but it also can be really difficult. And so in excuse me, in places like East Liberty, for example, we are seeing strong markets begin to emerge. And the question is, what happens to people who are living in that community? What happens if you are a renter or a homeowner in a community that historically you've been able to afford to live in, and now suddenly you're beginning to be pushed out? And what we have to care about is we can't just create this lovely city for newcomers who are escaping Brooklyn. And I love them, by the way. Thank you. Welcome to Pittsburgh. But and we should have more. but
you have to protect the people who are there.
What we're doing is creating a city for them. What are we doing? This has to be about creating a city for the people who live here, and that is welcoming to everybody, and that allows people who are already here to benefit from this upside. So that's the moment that we're in, actually, and this is going to actually happen over the next 5 to 10 years. And then it will probably be done for a generation. So, it's difficult to forecast what economic trends will be, but there are cycles to these things. And what we're seeing in Pittsburgh is this amazing moment where we're on everybody's radar. People want to move here. Companies want to locate near our universities. They see the enormous innovation that brought the president here last week. And that's great. But we have to connect that to what's happening on the ground for people who are Pittsburghers.
Thanks for talking to me. You did a great job on your very first live Facebook feed, so I
Thank
appreciate you taking the time.
It's a little nerve-wracking, but thank you.
It can be, but you're very well respected, and we appreciate all the things that you do. All right, Facebook, thanks for watching. We're going to go back inside the conference because a lot's going on. Thanks. Yeah, that was great.